Hi guys, Alec Pierce, Scuba Tech Tips from Simcoe Diving here in Barrie, Ontario. Somebody called and said, why are there so many holes in my regulator? I have a ring of holes right around the first stage, all the way around. If you've looked at your first stage, with some exceptions, if you looked at your first stage, you're probably, sometimes there's one large hole, sometimes there's a ring or several holes all around the body. They don't seem to do anything. We're not talking ports, we're not talking openings that do something. Usually at the end of the regulator, you'll find there's a number of holes. Simply go nowhere, they're not threaded. So, well, what are they? Let me give you a couple of examples first. Here's one. I don't know, Kevin, if you can get in there or not. A little wee bit. And you can see that this particular regulator has a hole, big hole. I'm talking about this one right here. That's a big hole. What's it do? It doesn't do anything. These are ports. They're threaded ports for hoses. So you can put hoses in there, pressure gauges and other devices in here. But right there's a great big hole. Now it is a hex hole on it, and an Allen key will fit into that, and that's actually used to adjust it. Now stay right there, Kevin, because here's another regulator. And this is the one, as I mentioned, this chap has a ring of holes. You see them? See them? There's a ring of holes all around the top. They don't do anything. It's not a porthole like this one that you put a hose into. No, they're just a bunch of holes. What are these all about? Why do the regulators have holes in them? Well, let me tell you right now, they have holes for a very good reason. Yeah, well, they wouldn't be there. In fact, if they didn't have holes, you'd have a real problem scuba diving with them. You could put them on your tank at the surface and you could breathe. That's about it. You couldn't go underwater. Now, maybe I'm giving you a clue here, perhaps. But this is a diagram of a very, very simple regulator. This is about as simple as one can get. Really simple. And I'll just take it quickly. So the black body around the outside here, okay? And this is your high pressure air coming in through here from the tank. There's a spring in there, and there's a seat there, and all that kind of stuff. This red line, I've colored it red, that's the diaphragm. And that diaphragm is subject to various pressure changes. One of those pressure changes is the water pressure. Here's the water pressure coming in through a hole. At the top, it goes past this spring, and that water pressure pushes on that diaphragm. And when it pushes on the diaphragm, it pushes this rod and pushes this seat, so high pressure air can come into this chamber and then off to you in the second stage, so you get a breath of air. Now, if you're at the surface, there's no water, is there? There's no water pressure. But there's air pressure pushing on there, and you or your local dive store, LDS servicemen, they adjust right here with this Allen key. They adjust this spring pressure here, this big spring. They adjust that spring pressure to the correct tension so that the air going to your second stage is the right pressure. Typically 150 psi. Typically 150 psi. So that's your IP, or intermediate pressure adjustment. All of this you already know, because some of you have probably seen my earlier videos, or you know this from your own experience. That's great. So why the hole? If the IEP is adjusted to 150, and the reg is breathing beautifully, it's not free-flowing, I can take an easy breath anytime I want, why do I need a hole on there? Well, it's very simple. As you start to dive, the pressure increases on you, on the regulator, on everything. And as the pressure increases on you, you can no longer take a breath. So you need about 150 psi coming to your second stage for you to take a breath at the surface. But as you descend, that pressure of the air coming to the second stage must increase to be equal to the water pressure outside. If it doesn't increase, you won't be able to breathe. You get down 10, 15, 20 feet, you won't be able to take a breath. And it has to increase based on the water pressure. Hence the hole. Maybe you're getting the picture now. There's a hole in here. You get down 10 feet, water is in there, at a pressure of 10 feet. So that pressure of the water at 10 feet pushing on the diaphragm increases the intermediate pressure going to you by 10 psi. We'll call it 10 psi. It's not, but we'll call it that. So now it's 150 plus 10. Now it's 160 psi. You get down to 20 feet, let's say it increases to 20 psi. It's not right, but let's say it does. We'll call it 1 psi per foot. So 20 feet, the water pressure is now 20 psi, pushing on the diaphragm, pushes it down farther, so now the air coming to you is 170 psi. And as you go down deeper and deeper and deeper, the air pressure coming to you increases proportionately. Now there's no increase. You don't feel the increase yourself. The rate doesn't start to free flow because the intermediate pressure is increasing, because the pressure on your lungs, on your body, is equal to the water pressure. So it's pushing on your lungs, trying to compress them, but it's giving you extra air at higher pressure so you can take a breath. I hope that's a clear explanation. Very simple. So a hole there is absolutely essential. Now, many regulators, I'm thinking of all Sherwood regulators, some U.S. divers, some Apex, many regulators anyway, you can't see the holes. No, they cover them up. And there's a good reason for that. With these holes in there, no matter what kind of regulator it is, this is a big hole on this old Mares. It's a big hole. Water goes in there. And if you're diving on salt water, that means salt water goes in there. That's right. Now, you all know how bad salt water can be for regulators. I've talked many, many times about how important it is to clean your regulators and blast water through all the holes, not the filter, all the holes like that one, and the other ones. Make sure all that salt water comes out so the regulator doesn't corrode and be completely destroyed. So there's a good reason for hiding those holes, to keep that salt water or dirty water, whatever it is, out, to keep it out. You don't want that stuff in there. How do they work? Well, they do have a sensing mechanism, and it could be a variety of things. It could be another rubber diaphragm that senses the water pressure outside and puts that pressure onto the diaphragm. There's a variety of ways of doing that. So if your regulator has no holes in it, it's a sealed regulator. It works exactly the same way. There is a mechanism, a device, that allows your regulator to sense the water pressure outside as you descend, and so the air pressure coming to you increases. But many, many regulators have those holes, and the water goes right inside, not into the mechanism where the air is, but into that diaphragm where that spring is. It goes right in there to be sure you get air at the correct pressure, depending on your depth. And that doesn't matter, whatever depth it is. It could be 10 feet, it could be 100 feet, it could be 1,000 feet. Regulators all work at those depths. You may not work at those depths, but the regulator works just fine, and all because of those holes. There you go. Whoever it was that asked that question, why your reg has holes, now you have a simple explanation. Don't forget to rinse them. Okay, that's it. Allie Pearce, tech tips from Simcoe Diving in Barrie. Talk to you soon.